Yeah, there was this guy that worked below me. I used to live in this loft in Boyle Heights, and he worked downstairs. And on Fridays we'd get together and have a beer or whatever. And I showed him some of my paintings, and he said that they reminded him of the walls of the city. So I took that as a pretty big compliment. And I guess you can say, I guess they're kind of landscapes in a way. If you had to categorize them, I guess I could say they're landscapes. I'd gotten this book when I was young, when I was in grade school, of Monet's paintings, and I was always sort of fascinated of all the Impressionists. I certainly was fascinated most with his work because I just loved the way he built up the layers on the canvas. There was just some incredible things that would happen with color because he just had these mounds and mounds of paint on the canvas. So the layers of the painting have always been very important to me, building up the layers. I mean, life is layered, you know. You have social layers and psychological layers, and you get in your car and you drive down the street, and there's pictures and lights and slogans and ads, and it's all sort of slammed into you, piled up on top of one another. Mentally, sometimes I guess that can be a little chaotic, but visually it's pretty exciting, and it's always kind of inspired me. I used to write a lot in journals when I was younger, and I remember in 1999 I went back and looked at some of my journals. I had a ton of them, and what I'd written was, basically nonsense, but the way the writing looked on the paper in my journals, I loved the way that it looked. And I did a painting in 1999. One of the few paintings I've actually kept and never sold. Actually, I did sell it, and I bought it back. I did this painting, and from that day forward, I'd pretty much incorporated writing into my paintings. At first, it was pretty literal. It was, little clever phrases and things like that, but that all went away, and now it's more of like a visual attack of things that look legible but really are not. The painting process for me is simple. I certainly don't find it very easy to make paintings that I like, but my process is pretty simple in that I make marks and cancel out the marks and try and work up some kind of visual history on the canvas, because I think that gives the canvas depth and dimension, and I like the way that it looks when there's a lot going on. It reminds me, like when you see, the kids tag the buildings, and then the maintenance crew comes by the next day and paints over the tag, but they don't quite have the same gray that the building was originally painted with, so you have these two tones of gray, and then the tag still shows through, and there's all this sort of visual history of stuff that had gone on, and then of course, if it happens 3, 4, 5 times, I think the wall kind of starts to look pretty cool. So that's kind of the process of how I approach the canvases. I remember there was this one time I took this art class. I was much younger, and I think I was a little out of my league. These kids that were in this class were quite accomplished artists, and the teacher gave us this project where we were supposed to do a self-portrait. You look in a mirror and you paint this picture of your face, and I was absolutely terrified because I had no idea how to even approach doing something like that, and I'm looking around the room, and a lot of these kids are doing stuff that's quite good, and so we all were doing our little thing, and then of course the end result was that we were going to stand these portraits up against the wall and go around the room and have everybody say what they thought and critique and all this sort of thing. And mine was just absolutely so horrible. I couldn't bear showing it. So we painted the pictures on masonite, and I broke mine in 4 pieces, and I went out into the back of the building, and I buried it in the dirt so nobody would ever see it.